The Seattle rain was a constant, rhythmic tapping against the windows of our home in the gated community of Magnolia that night. For 4 years, I truly believed I was living a perfect fairy tale. I had married Richard after a whirlwind romance that felt like a Hollywood script. He was attentive, successful, and always made me feel like the center of his universe. We lived in the house I inherited from my parents, a sprawling home. This craftsman-style house sat on a large and very valuable lot overlooking the Sound, a legacy I cherished deeply. But about 6 months ago, the beautiful silence of our perfect life began to splinter into pieces. It started with our neighbor, Mrs. Gable. She was a 70-year-old widow who lived alone in the house right next door. Suddenly, she began having strange episodes. Every night, around 2 a.m., I would wake up to a sound. I would hear the sound of frantic footsteps on the wet pavement and piercing screams that cut through the dark. She would run back and forth in front of our gates, shouting complete nonsense, sometimes laughing hysterically, and other times sobbing as if she were witnessing a murder. At first, I was absolutely terrified. I would wake up in a cold sweat, clutching Richard's arm and begging him to call the local authorities for help. But Richard would always calm me down with that steady, soothing voice I loved so much during our time together. "Sophia, honey, Mrs. Gable is sick. It's early onset dementia. If we call the authorities, they'll lock her away in a terrible institution. Do you really want that on your conscience?" Richard had a special gift for making me feel guilty for my fear, as if my lack of compassion was the real problem in our marriage. Weeks slowly turned into months, and those nightly screams became part of the background noise of our lives. But other things began to change too, small details that I didn't notice at first. Richard started staying much later at work, claiming he was supervising important IT infrastructure projects at various construction sites. He would come home after 11 p.m., his expensive clothes smelling of damp earth, sweat, and dust. Then, he suddenly changed the passcode on his personal phone to a 6-digit lock that he said was a new corporate requirement. The most unsettling change was in our own backyard. We had a large lot with old apple trees, and Richard suddenly became obsessed with building a surprise cedar deck for me. He began digging a specific area near the back fence, working alone late at night or on weekends when the neighborhood was quiet. He refused to hire any contractors, saying he wanted to build this special gift with his own 2 hands. I was too busy with my freelance design work to question him further, until the night he left for a business trip to Portland. I was left alone in the large house with only the screams of Mrs. Gable for company. That Thursday night, the house felt cavernous and oppressive, as if the walls were closing in on me slowly. The wind rattled the old window panes, and the wood of the craftsman floors groaned like it was in physical pain. At exactly 2 a.m., the screaming started outside. But this time, it felt different, closer, more insistent, and desperate. I was paralyzed with fear in bed when I heard a distinct sliding sound at the front door. Someone was pushing something under it. I crept to the living room, my heart hammering against my ribs. On the floor was a piece of common notebook paper, folded several times into a small square. I opened it with trembling hands and read the words written in shaky but clear handwriting. "Sophia, I am not crazy. I am not senile. I am pretending. Your husband cannot know I am lucid. Please, look at your backyard security cameras, the footage from the last few days. You need to see what he is doing. Your life is in danger." I read the note 3 times, my mouth going completely dry as the implications settled in. Was this the delusion of a sick woman, or a desperate warning from a friend? I went to my home office and logged into the security system. Richard had installed the cameras a year ago for protection, but I rarely checked the feeds. I navigated to the backyard camera and pulled up the footage from the previous week of recordings. I looked specifically at the nights Richard said he was working late on the surprise deck. The night vision was grainy and green, but the image was unmistakable. Richard was in the yard, but he wasn't building any deck. He was digging a deep, rectangular pit with a frantic, rhythmic intensity that scared me. Next to him, illuminated by the neighbor's porch light, was a large black plastic tarp and a thick coil of rope. I also saw a roll of heavy-duty industrial tape sitting on the grass. My stomach lurched as I watched him work. He spent 2 hours digging until the hole was at least 5 feet deep in the earth. I fast-forwarded through several nights of footage. It was always the same pattern of behavior. But the most horrifying moment came in the footage from Tuesday. Richard was kneeling by the pit, cleaning a large, black-handled hunting knife. He looked calm, almost bored, as he checked the sharpness of the blade with his thumb before tucking it into a bag. I sat on the floor of my office, hugging my knees, trying not to vomit. My husband, the man who kissed me every morning, was digging a grave in our own backyard. And the only question that mattered in that moment was, who was that grave for? I couldn't stay in the house a second longer after seeing that. I threw a jacket over my pajamas, grabbed my phone, and ran across the dark, wet lawn to Mrs. Gable's house. When she opened the door, she looked nothing like the disheveled woman I saw screaming at the moon every night. Her white hair was pulled back in a neat bun, her clothes were clean, and her eyes were sharp and incredibly lucid. "Sophia," she said firmly, "come inside right now. We don't have much time to talk." Mrs. Gable led me to her living room, which was filled with old mahogany furniture and the pleasant scent of lavender. She sat me down and placed a thick file folder on the table between us. "I was a private investigator for 30 years, Sophia. I retired 10 years ago, but I never lost my instincts. When you and Richard moved in, I recognized him immediately. It took months of digging, but I finally found the pattern." She pushed a photo across the table, a beautiful young woman with a wide, happy smile. 6 years ago, a woman named Vanessa died in a domestic accident in a remote house in Oregon. Her husband, an IT manager, sold the house and vanished. 2 years later, the same thing happened to a woman named Carla in California. Both women had inherited property. Both were married to men who looked exactly like your husband, Richard. I stared at the wedding photos Mrs. Gable had collected over the months. Even with different hair and glasses, I could see his jawline and the specific way he tilted his head. Richard was a predator who specialized in lonely women with assets. He waited exactly 4 years long enough to avoid immediate suspicion before eliminating them and moving on to the next city with his new fortune. I was his third target. "The police won't act on suspicious digging alone, Sophia," Mrs. Gable warned me gravely. "He's been perfect at covering his tracks so far. But he's accelerating his plan now because the property value here has skyrocketed. When he comes back from Portland on Saturday night, he's going to execute his plan." My body was shaking uncontrollably as the truth hit. "What do I do?" I whispered. Mrs. Gable took my cold hand in hers. "We catch him in the act. We make him confess everything," she said. "I've already set up the trap, but I need you to be the bait to make it work." Saturday night arrived with a heavy fog that swallowed the trees in our backyard. When Richard's SUV pulled into the driveway, I felt my skin crawl with revulsion. I adjusted the small pearl brooch Mrs. Gable had given me. It was a high-tech hidden camera and a microphone. The device was streaming live to her computer and a hidden police unit nearby. I forced a smile and met him at the door. He hugged me tight, kissing my forehead like always. "I missed you, honey," he murmured. He went to the kitchen for a glass of water, and I followed him, trying to keep my voice steady. "Richard, I wanted to talk to you about the deck. I saw the hole you dug, and I'm curious about the project's design." I saw a flicker of tension in his eyes, but it was gone in a second. "Sure, baby. You want to see it now? It's a full moon. The light is perfect." He led me to the backyard, his arm draped casually over my shoulder. We walked to the back fence where the pit was covered by wooden boards. Richard stood at the edge, looking down into the dark. "It needs to be deep for the foundation to be stable," he said with terrifying conviction. "Richard," I began, my voice trembling slightly, "why did you really marry me? Was it for the house?" The mask finally slipped. Richard let out a short, humorless laugh that made my blood run cold. "So the old crazy lady told you, didn't she?" I knew she was faking it. I should have dealt with her first. His voice was empty and utterly devoid of any love. "Money, Sophia. Why else? I grew up with nothing in this world." "I realized there was an easier way," he continued. "Lonely women, valuable property, it was almost too easy. And you would have been the easiest of all if that witch hadn't interfered." He pulled a coil of rope from his pocket and stepped toward me. "It complicates things, but the result will be the same." I backed away. But he was faster, grabbing my arm and pulling me toward the grave. I screamed as loud as I could. Suddenly, the backyard exploded with blinding light. "Police! Drop the rope and put your hands up!" Dozens of officers emerged from the shadows surrounding us. Mrs. Gable was there, holding a tablet showing the live recording of his full confession. Richard was handcuffed, his face a mask of pure, silent rage. The following week was a blur of police statements and forensic teams. They excavated the entire backyard for clues. They found more than just a hole. Buried near the fence was a weatherproof toolbox containing surgical gloves, heavy cleaning chemicals, and a notebook. When the detective showed me the notebook, I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Richard had kept meticulous notes on every woman he had ever targeted. My name was there: Sophia, 32, graphic designer, heir to $8 million property. He had listed all my specific weaknesses. He noted my low self-esteem after my parental loss and my emotional dependency. His strategy was intense romance, rapid marriage, and gradual isolation. He had even estimated my elimination for 4 years post-marriage. The method was an accidental fall into backyard pit followed by blunt force trauma. He had planned my death since our very first date. Every kiss and every "I love you" had been a rehearsal for my murder. The investigation deepened as the FBI got involved. They reopened the cases of Vanessa and Carla, and the pieces fit perfectly. Richard was a meticulous predator who had operated for nearly a decade under at least 5 different identities. He had bank accounts in 3 states and a collection of jewelry from his previous victims hidden in a storage unit. The perfect husband was a monster who treated human lives like transactions. During the trial, Richard showed no remorse at all. He argued that women like me, who inherited wealth they didn't work for, were inefficient resources and that he was simply redistributing wealth. The jury was horrified by his cold logic. He was sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. As the sentence was read, I felt an immense weight lift from my chest, but the deep scars remained. I sold the Craftsman house. I couldn't live among the poised memories of the rooms he had walked in. Mrs. Gable moved into a new apartment in the same building as me in downtown Seattle. She became more than a neighbor. She became my family. "Your instinct was trying to warn you all along, Sophia," she told me one morning over coffee. "We are taught to ignore those instincts, but sometimes making a scene saves your life." 2 years after the trial, I decided to turn my trauma into a mission. With Mrs. Gable's help, I founded the Renaissance Foundation. Our goal was to provide support for victims of psychological abuse and educate women on red flags in relationships. We also fund investigations into suspicious cases that the authorities were overlooking. We called it Renaissance because you can be reborn even after total destruction. I became a spokesperson for the cause, speaking at universities about the reality of grooming and gaslighting in adult relationships. Every time I told my story, I felt a little less broken. I wasn't just a survivor anymore, I was a warrior. I also met Pedro, a history professor who was kind, patient, and had a subtle sense of humor. Our relationship was built on total transparency and respect, the exact opposite of my past. Richard died in prison 4 years after his conviction. He sent me a letter before he passed, a final attempt at manipulation, claiming I was the one who almost made him want to change. I didn't even finish reading it. I tore it into pieces and threw it away. He no longer deserved a single second of my attention. He was a footnote in my life, not the title. Today, I am standing in the garden of the Foundation's new office. I am holding my son, Gabriel. I am raising him to understand consent, to respect boundaries, and to recognize the signs of a predator. I am teaching him to be a good man in a world that desperately needs them. I look at Mrs. Gable, now 80 years old, cutting the ribbon on our largest facility yet, and I smile. Richard had dug a grave for me, but he was the one who fell into it. I am Sophia's survivor, founder, mother, and defender. I am gloriously, defiantly alive. And that, in the end, is the greatest revenge of all. Living well, loving well, and making a difference. Impossible is just a word, and after everything I survived, I know I can conquer anything. The Seattle rain still falls, but now it feels like it's washing away the past. I have found my purpose in the pain, and I will never let anyone silence my voice again. This is my new beginning. Looking back at those years, I realize how vulnerable I was. I had lost my parents and was looking for a replacement for the love they gave me. Richard knew that. He saw the cracks in my soul and filled them with lies. It was a masterpiece of deception. But he underestimated one thing: the strength of a woman pushed to the edge. He thought I was weak, but I was just waiting for a reason to fight back with everything I had. Mrs. Gable was my guardian angel in disguise. Her madness was a brilliant cover for her investigation. She sacrificed her own reputation to keep an eye on me. That is true courage. We often sit on our balcony now, watching the ferries cross the Sound. We don't talk about Richard much anymore. We talk about the women we've helped, the lives we've saved, and the future we're building. We are the architects of our own destiny. The Renaissance Foundation has grown beyond my wildest dreams. We have a team of lawyers, therapists, and investigators who work tirelessly. We've helped hundreds of women escape toxic situations. Every time a woman walks through our doors, I see myself in her eyes. I see the fear, the confusion, and the flickering hope. I tell them, "You are not crazy. You are not alone. And you will survive this. It's my life's work." Pedro is my rock. He doesn't try to fix me. He just loves me. He understands that I have bad days, days when the rain feels heavy and the shadows feel long. He just holds me and tells me I'm safe. That's all I ever wanted. A love that is safe and honest. We're teaching Gabriel that same honesty. We're teaching him that strength is not about control. It's about character. He is our hope for a better, kinder world. Sometimes I walk past my old house. A new family lives there now, and they've built a beautiful garden where the pit used to be. I don't feel sad when I see it. I feel a sense of closure. That house was a prison of lies, but it's gone now. I've built a new home, one made of truth and resilience. I am no longer defined by what happened to me. I am defined by what I've done with it. I am a survivor, and I am proud. Life is full of unexpected turns. I never thought I'd be a founder of a foundation or a voice for the voiceless. But the universe has a way of leading you where you're needed. My experience with Richard was a high price to pay, but it gave me a perspective I wouldn't have otherwise. It made me realize that evil is real, but so is good, and good is much, much stronger. I am living proof of that every single day of my life. I've started writing a book about my journey. It's not just a memoir, it's a guide for others. I want people to know the subtle signs of manipulation. I want them to know that it's okay to trust their gut. I want to demystify the perfect husband myth. If my story can save just one person from the nightmare I lived through, then it was worth telling. Every word I write is a step toward healing for me and for my readers. Mrs. Gable is currently writing a chapter for my book. Her perspective as an investigator is invaluable. She talks about the psychology of a predator and how to spot them. We make a great team. She's like the grandmother I never had. We share a bond that was forged in a backyard grave. It's a dark origin, but it led to a beautiful friendship. We are proof that even from the worst situations, something good can grow. The Seattle skyline is beautiful tonight. The Space Needle is lit up and the city feels alive. I'm sitting in my office finishing a design for a new foundation brochure. I feel a sense of peace I haven't felt in a long time. I know there are still predators out there, but I also know there are people like us who are fighting back. We are the light in the shadows, and we will never stop shining our truth for everyone to see. Gabriel is sleeping in the next room. I go in and watch him for a moment. He's so innocent, so full of potential. I promise him, silently, that I will do everything in my power to make this world a safer place for him. I will teach him to be a protector, not a predator. I will teach him to value human life above all else. He is my heart, and he is my reason for everything I do. I am a mother, and I am a warrior. Pedro comes in and puts his hand on my shoulder. "You're working late again," he whispers. I smile and lean into him. "Just finishing up," I say. He kisses the top of my head. "Come to bed, Sophia. You've done enough for today." He's right. I've done enough. I've survived a monster, built a legacy, and found true love. I am finally home. And this time, the house is built on a foundation of truth that will never crack. The ledger of victims still haunts me sometimes. Those names, Vanessa, Carla, and the others we've found since. They weren't just names in a notebook. They were real women with families and dreams. I feel a responsibility to them. I feel like I'm living for them too. Every victory for the foundation is a victory for them. We are making sure their lives weren't lost in vain. We are their voice, and we will never stop speaking. I recently met Carla's sister. She thanked me for not giving up. We cried together. It was a powerful moment of shared grief and shared strength. She told me that having a name for the monster helped her find some peace. It's not complete closure, but it's a start. We are all part of a club we never wanted to join, but we are supporting each other through the pain. We are a sisterhood of survivors, and we are unbreakable. The Foundation's new facility is named after Mrs. Gable. It's a state-of-the-art center for research and training. We're teaching law enforcement how to recognize the signs of psychological abuse. We're changing the way these cases are handled. It's a slow process, but we're making progress. We're ensuring that the next Sophia is heard before it's too late. We're building a future where predators have nowhere to hide in our city. Sometimes I think about the note under the door. That one piece of paper changed everything. It was a simple act of courage that saved my life. It reminds me that we all have the power to make a difference. We just have to be brave enough to act. Mrs. Gable acted, and I'm here because of it. I try to be that note under the door for others now. I try to be the warning that saves a life. It's the greatest honor of my life. The Seattle rain is falling again. I used to hate it, but now I find it soothing. It feels like a cleansing. It feels like the world is being washed clean of all the lies and the darkness. I sit by the window and listen to the rhythmic tapping. It's a reminder that life goes on no matter what. I am part of that life, and I'm grateful for every moment. I am Sophia, and I am finally, truly free. The rain doesn't scare me anymore. I often think about the psychology of men like Richard. What makes someone so cold, so calculating? Is it something they're born with, or is it something they learn? My foundation is starting a research project to look into the early signs of sociopathy. We want to understand the why so we can prevent the what. It's a complex issue, but we're committed to finding answers. We're not just treating the symptoms. We're looking for a cure. Pedro is helping with the research. As a history professor, he's looking at the historical context of these behaviors. We're finding that these patterns have existed for a long time. It's not a new problem, but we're finding new ways to fight it. Our collaboration is a source of strength for both of us. We're combining our skills to make a real impact. We're a team in every sense of the word. We're building a better world together. Gabriel is starting to ask questions. Why do you work so much, Mommy? I tell him that I'm helping people. I tell him that everyone deserves to be safe and happy. He nods and says, I want to help people too. It melts my heart. He's such a good boy. I know he will grow up to be a wonderful man. I know he will carry on our legacy of compassion. He is the future, and the future is bright. I am so proud to be his mother. Mrs. Gable is teaching Gabriel how to be a JR detective. They look for clues in the park hidden stones. Special leaves. It's a fun game for him, but it's also teaching him to be observant. He loves spending time with her. They have a special bond. I'm so glad she's in our lives. She's a true hero. She's proof that one person can change the world. She changed mine, and I will be forever grateful to her for everything. The Foundation's annual gala is next week. It's our biggest fundraiser of the year. I'm a bit nervous about the speech I have to give, but I know I'll be okay. I'll just tell my truth. I'll tell the story of a woman who survived a monster and found her purpose. I'll tell the story of a sisterhood that is changing the world. I'll tell the story of hope, because hope is the most powerful force in the universe. And it's what we give to everyone. Pedro will be there, of course, cheering me on. He's my biggest supporter. He's always there when I need him. I'm so lucky to have him in my life. He's the love of my life. We've built a beautiful life together, one made of honesty and respect. We're proof that true love exists. We're proof that you can find happiness after a tragedy. We're a living example of resilience. And we're just getting started on our journey together. After the gala, we're taking a family vacation. No work, no foundation, just us. We're going to a quiet beach house where the only sound is the waves. I'm looking forward to it. I need some time to recharge. I need some time to just be a wife and a mother. I've earned it. I've fought hard for my happiness, and I'm going to enjoy every second of it. I'm going to soak in the sun and the love of my family. I am blessed. The broken tablet box sits on my desk. It's a reminder of where I came from. It's a symbol of my survival. I touch it occasionally to ground myself. It reminds me that I am stronger than I think. It reminds me that the truth is always worth fighting for. I will never forget that night in the backyard, but I am no longer a prisoner of it. I am the owner of my own story, and I am writing a beautiful new chapter every day. Final thought for tonight. Never underestimate your instincts. They are there for a reason. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to make a scene. Your safety is more important than being polite. You have the power to change your life. You have the power to be a hero. Stand tall, speak your truth, and never give up. You are a warrior, and the world needs your light to shine. I am Sophia. I am a survivor. I am a mother. I am a wife. I am a founder, and I am finally, truly free. The Seattle rain is still falling, but I'm warm and safe. I have my family, my purpose, and my truth. My life is beautiful, and I'm going to make the most of every single day. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you find your own strength. Goodbye for now, and stay strong in your own journey.